Good morning, friends. It is Sunday, March 14th. The Ides of Spring are upon us, but most importantly, it is Sunday Brunch here on Love Wrestling. It's good to see you, friends, whether you are tuning in on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook Live, or Twitch. Thanks for joining us. It's always appreciated. As you can tell, the daylight savings time has sort of slowed me down a little bit. It's going to be a little bit more of a mellowed out Sunday brunch, I suppose, today. Losing an hour of sleep is never good for anybody, but thankfully, I've got some great individuals here to join me to hopefully not only lift my spirits, but cover for me when I perhaps fall on this here broadcast, starting with the man you see on my right on the screen, Joe Jr. Joe, how are you doing, man? It's good to see you for the third, I believe, Sunday brunch in a row.
Yeah, I'm doing well. You know, daylight savings time hit me as well as everyone, I'm sure, especially after a Saturday night of fun. But I'm ready to talk some wrestling, so I'm excited. Let's go.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, before I ask the individuals below me here, let's give a quick shout out to a couple great people in the chat. Vanessa, as well, from Putting You Over, that I recommend so highly that you guys check out. Watching Sunday Brunch while cooking Sunday Brunch, Brunchception, I think you call that. Andre C. as well. It is time for brunch. Yes, it is. It's time. It's Sunday Brunch time. It is also Pie Day. Zach making a great comment. We should have had Scott Steiner do a cameo for us, but the marketing department of Love Wrestling dropped the ball on that one. Unfortunately, that means I don't have any right to talk right now, so I'm going to move to Chris Parrish. Parrish, how you doing, friend?
Oh, that one word, like phrase, should be a sound clip. That was funny, but I'm doing well. I chose the wrong night to go to bed at like 5 a.m., knowing like really 4 hours later we're on here. So yeah, picking last night to watch some Die Hard movies is a fun idea.
Always a good idea. And of course, last but not least, Mighty Joe Morin. How are you doing, friend?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's ready for another Sunday. Is kind of like the kickoff to like my busy week in professional wrestling, doing stuff. I'm going to do this. We got Turnbuckle Talk coming on Monday. We're recording Turnbuckle Rewind on Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a Destino with Michael Jargo over on the Destino and the Hobby Media Group guys. And I may even have something else going on this week too. I mean, it's lots going on. It's a good time to be busy, I guess.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. And with those endless possibilities, there are some endless possibilities to discuss on Sunday Brunch today. So for those of you in the chat, let us know what you want to talk about. Let us know what you want our thoughts on. Give us your comments, questions, concerns. If you want to yell at us, if you want to congratulate me on my impending win of the Love Wrestling Elite Championship once again next Sunday, feel free to let us know. Of course, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the show. But like we said, lots going on in the world of wrestling over the last little bit, and somewhere that I know a lot of us are eager to start with because it sort of combines everything I think that we love in professional wrestling, whether it's free agent frenzy, whether it's dream matches, whether it's anything in between. The news that last week Andrade had requested his release from WWE, I believe right after or right before Monday Night Raw, a little iffy on those exact details, but of course, some huge news, whether or not it was granted or not. All reports are saying that it was not granted. It's big news. It really is big news. Coming 2 weeks after Paul White leaves WWE. Obviously, the two gentlemen have very different relationships with the promotion, very different histories as well. But is this just another, for lack of a better way to put it, just another shocker for the WWE that, wow, we've got another individual who perhaps is interested in taking his talents elsewhere?
Mind if I go first on this one?
Absolutely.
Yes. Go ahead.
The logistic part of this that I don't understand, guys, is that, and everybody watching and listening here, is they don't have anything for him. Why continue to pay him to be around if you have nothing creative for him? And he wants to leave. I mean, you're just pissing money away for lack of a better term. And it's unfortunate because he's one of these guys, and I hate to kind of, seems to be a reoccurring theme. He's one of these guys that I think really would have benefited from staying in NXT. And one of these guys that you could have built that brand around. I mean, he's a really good, legitimate wrestler. When you look back on his history, I mean, he was actually one of the founding members of Los Ingobernables. At the time, he was called Los Sombra, I believe, something like that. And him and Naito and Rush, like that. Those are some of the first guys that started that kind of faction. And, so he's somebody of some significance, and he's an excellent talent, but just, he's one of these guys that once they go to Raw and SmackDown, they get lost in the shuffle. And it's
Yeah.
unfortunate because, like I said, he's in my personal opinion, people can think whatever they want about the lucha libre kind of style, but I mean, he's one of the better ones at it. And it's just it was very confusing to see how they've chosen to kind of go about using him. It's unfortunate because I'm actually a fan of the guy.
Oh yeah, and it's a point Vanessa agrees with. I don't blame Andrade. Who wants to show up and not be utilized?
Right?
Bang on. And
because
I think
they want to really showcase their craft. He's one of these guys that just doesn't want to sit and just the money's coming in. I mean, and I get that approach. You want a steady paycheck, but you want to flex your creative muscle a little bit, and he just doesn't get to do that.
Exactly. I said on Twitter, and I by no means put it the best, but my personal opinion on it is, however these individuals feel happiest and can pay their bills, that's what's important. And I don't think you can begrudge Andrade for wanting to go and do other things. Personally, like you guys say, I think there is a bit of an issue there, a bit of a disconnect in that if somebody essentially wants to quit their job, I know that's a bit of a harsh phrase for it, but like if I wanted to leave my job, there's no way that I would be prevented from doing so. Why they would be trying to do so with someone else is a little frustrating. Now, just to pivot here a little bit, Joe Jr., we're going to move to you. Andre C., which Twitch channel is this streaming on? You, my friend, can find us on pretty well any form of social media, including the Twitch machine at Love Wrestling CA. It's a small community. We're trying to grow it. I'm learning slowly as far as Twitch goes. I still don't know what bits quite are, but I can tell you I have a lot of fun hopping on the stream, whether it's with Love Wrestling or whether it's with Fightful. So give us a follow. It's always appreciated. Thanks. There's my cheap plug. I completely agree as well with Vanessa. We're going to touch on her comment here. Andrade or Garza should be pushed as a Guerrero for 2020, in my opinion. Something similar, 110%. I do want to jump back to that point in a second and let you guys stew on that, because before we get on to it, let's give a quick shout out as well to our consistent friends here at Wrestling Plug Inc. I really don't think they've missed a brunch at this point. And if they have,
then everyone, yeah.
Well, when we get jackets made up, I guarantee we'll be getting you one done as well. It's good to see you, friend. A lot of similar comments as well. It's just petty on WWE's part to keep Andrade and the proverbial catering. I do agree, and I do say all of that with, the caveat again. I have no idea what the relationship is backstage. I have no idea if this was a malicious thing or whatever it may be. I can only look at the optics of that guy as one of the most talented pro wrestlers in the world, and I want to see that guy on my television selfishly as much as possible. Parrish, what are your thoughts? And maybe I'll let you kickstart the discussion here that I know we're inevitably going to have. What would you like to see happen next, whether he was to remain or leave WWE?
Well, first off, I'm going to say two things that are factual. He has signed a contract to WWE, and WWE has him under contract. So therefore, his rights to working is with one company. So I can see why WWE does not want to let him go, because he is a talent that they wanted to have under contract. I understand why he doesn't want to be under contract, because he's not being used. They let his manager go. They split up the tag team. Now, really should have beat the Street Profits for the tag titles, and they're kind of not doing anything with him. He's frustrated. But we also don't know the severity of this relationship, if it actually is sour, or if it's just an example of, hey, you're not doing anything. I like to be active. I'm still young. I'm still ready to go and contribute. Just let me go somewhere else. Same thing happened with Tyler Breeze, but it just wasn't out there enough, and he wasn't at the star power that Andrade is right now. So I think it's really misinformed on anybody's parts to talk about its severity when we don't know it. And I do think with Andrade, we just don't know if he's truly mad, because I don't think he's truly mad, because his probably fiance or whatever, Charlotte, his girlfriend, is there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're married yet.
Yeah. So let's just say it's just a matter of him putting his foot down on his career, saying, I want to do something with him. And if that's the case, I think you should listen to some of his ideas. If you're not using a guy like him, then listen to some of the ideas and see what you can do for him, because that's something you're doing with him. That's better than what you are not.
I think,
my number one thing is, Mr. Heyman, what would you do with this guy? Because you're the creative genius in this company. And Paul Heyman always seems to know what to do with guys that deserve an opportunity. And that's one thing you can go right there. Joe, you talked about his New Japan days. Well, isn't one of the Cruiserweight champions in NXT a former member of that same group?
Yeah, it would have been more down in Mexico, like the CMLL
Yeah.
kind of going on.
Because that's where the do Japan and didn't they
Correct.
have? Yeah.
Yeah. Plus,
Correct.
they had
You're-
like going over on the Ring of Honor side as well. Currently with Roosh and those guys. I mean, he would somebody that could translate very well to that if they do end up letting him go. But I'll digress.
My point was put him back in NXT and team him up with the Santos X Star.
Yeah.
Have them become like a force. Have them be that like kind of main event to Santos's like mid card, like so they can have their kind of form of an evolution type, undisputed era type stable, and then you can ride with that moving forward. So that's personally just little things I would do with him. I like him in WWE. I think he fits WWE very well. Would I want to see him in, say, a Ring of Honor or a New Japan? Absolutely. But I have seen him in New Japan. And there's something about a guy who lost a mask, going back to a mask, that takes me a while to get back into that person. Because
That's
now
a fair
the
point,
mystique,
too.
now that mystique about who that guy is gone. And I think that's a very big selling factor for a lot of guys into a mask. It's like watching Rey Mysterio kind of lose his mask, and then you almost kind of had to forget him just to kind of re-bring him back in. And boy, you're happy you did, because these are hell of a talent.
Yeah.
He's somebody
Now-
that you would have to kind of keep away for a little while. Like if you were to shift over to somewhere else, you'd have to kind of like stay quiet, maybe wait like 6 months or something. And especially if you wanted to re-debut a masked character, you have to wait a little bit of time to let the not necessarily to forget, but to just kind of wait a little bit.
Yeah. Now, Joe, before I move on to you, I've got to get a couple of comments, including one that I'm sure you guys saw me pop out when I saw it. Mr. J in the chat, WWE always listens to suggestions.
Sure they do.
Certainly don't listen to email interview requests, I can tell you that much. Rumors are Charlotte plugged a storyline for Andrade going into Mania, but I think the Evans news put a monkey wrench in everything. I don't disagree. I really have no idea where that would have gone, but that's exactly, I think, the point that I wanted to play off of with Parrish there is that, if you don't have the guy on television, if there's stuff like that out there where, at least objectively, again, he's been presented with something like working with a Charlotte Flair, or he's had the matches with Rey Mysterio before that just got so over. There's a lot of different stuff that, at least to an outsider, you could be doing with them right now. There's a lot of room for him on Monday Night Raw. I think there's basically a situation right there now where you've got to throw something new in just because it needs something new right now. And Andrade brings that sort of, I guess, proverbial breath of fresh air again. He hasn't wrestled since, I think, October. At the very least, that was his last appearance, and that was when him and Zelina got taken out by The Fiend. Now, if they were to bring him back, again, they can play off that history. Maybe he comes back and, talk about a way to bring a guy back under a mask. That could potentially be one. I'm just spitballing there, right? The Fiend changes people and so on and so forth. Like you say, though, I think that everybody's made the point that there's just so much you could be doing with them. We don't know the relationship, just sort of assuming that he is the great guy that he seems to be. I'd have to assume it's because he's a talented guy. He sees that there are potentially more opportunities elsewhere and just hasn't been able to get them. Joe, I wanted to plug this one your way and put this thought your way first. This is the thank you he gets for carrying the early era pandemic PC shows.
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say. When they first went, him, Zelina, and Garza carried Raw. Raw. They were multiple segments layered in throughout the whole show. Before the Hurt Business kind of formed, they were the first group for those first couple months that were literally carrying the show. Yeah. And the fact that now we're talking, a year later or 8-9 months later, and the guy can't even sniff a TV time when we're seeing rematches for the 9th, 10th week in a row, it seems, does not make sense to me. We're talking 3.5 years ago, he had what a lot of people argue is the best NXT match of all time against Gargano on that takeover. And the guy can't even sniff, not even a 5-minute match against an enhancement talent on TV. He had potential, and he still does, to be that crossover Mexican Hispanic star that they've been looking for 15 years since Eddie. And I know we had a comment earlier about it, and to see that when he was given that opportunity at the beginning of the pandemic, and those three ran with that opportunity, and now we're not even a year later, and this guy can't sniff a program or even an idea, it seems, is just baffling to me. It's
And
absolutely
on a side note, there, I'm still interested in who Angel Garza is presenting a rose to that they just completely dropped off on again.
Yeah.
But what can you do?
Interestingly enough, before you continue, Spencer, because Joe Jr. mentioned something. Actually, I'm just kind of looking at his kind of profile online. I'm assuming that this is legitimate. But at one time in his career, he actually did go by the name Guerrero Azteca.
Cool.
So just a little interesting side note there. I thought I'd mention.
I like it. You're not only getting an entertaining Sunday brunch, but you're getting some fun facts thrown your way here in the chat. Parrish, I'll actually let you take the last point on this one because we got to get our plugs, we got to get our breaks, and we got to go do all of that sort of stuff. And we're about to hit the 20-minute mark. So give us the final thoughts on Andrade, and then I'm going to give one-word answers or one-person answers for everybody. Whatever promotion it may be, what's your Andrade dream match? Parrish, we'll start with you.
Well, I was just going to say this is one of this, like, just a small example of why I dislike the Royal Rumble so much, because, like, you could have brought in, like, guys like Andrade and have them return to TV. You could have had Mustafa Ali play a bigger part. Lashley, who's now the champion, did absolutely dick all in that match. Alexa Bliss, who's the hottest thing on the women's side, did nothing in that match. Robert Roode, who's a champion, wasn't involved. But then you brought back a guy who's now in the main event scene of AEW. And then you brought back Fat Hurricane, and they did absolutely nothing for your product going into the biggest show of the year. And now you have all these skilled talent that are doing nothing. And now we're programmed to see Bad Bunny in a match, and we're wondering why Andrade isn't even on main event.
Stop beating that point. I thought we all agreed to disagree on that last week.
No,
we left that one in the past.
I'm just saying, though,
ourselves on that one.
It's guys like that. It's guys like Andrade who are going to carry your 3-hour program. It's not the guys that you're bringing back for that surprise pop for no audience, or it's not this singer that doesn't even sing in English that recognizes to your anyway. But like these are the guys that they are missing the boat with, and it makes no sense. And yeah, I'll even say my dream match for Andrade right now is AJ Styles. And I say that because AJ Styles, outside of Randy Orton, and I don't care what people want to say about WWE, are two of the best in-ring wrestling performers right now. And anybody who wants to drop me Kenny Omega's name on there, suck it, because these guys are literal stars in the making. AJ Styles flat out debuted in WWE in a Rumble, and then in months, #1 guy. Randy Orton is one of the most decorated wrestlers there. Kenny Omega, talented performer, but is still scratching the surface of who he is as a performer there, and it's not even that good, in my opinion.
Quote presented entirely for the context of what my Andrade dream match is. I love celebrities in professional wrestling. I've got a lot of time for them. I've got to say that. I've just got to throw that one out there. And yeah, throwing in just a great point as well. Bad Bunny is pulling in the Latino folks who never watched before, but Andrade could do the same. I think that's just, frankly, the perfect way that we could sum it up. And that it's an odd.
That wasn't my point, though. That wasn't my point.
No. I know, and that Andrade should just be in that spot regardless. Is essentially.
But is he really drawing the fans? Because I mean, the numbers would beg to differ with that.
I'm just saying, when I watch a wrestling product, I want to see some freaking wrestling. I don't want to see.
I agree.
Just give me some.
Let's leave that one. Maybe we'll talk about the celebrities in wrestling again here in the next little bit. Got to throw a quick shout out to Kyle Shaw.
No.
Shaw, we're going to touch on this point after we get back from the break because I think it's a really, really good one. It is something that I think a lot of people thought that he needed to work on, but I do think that he's never been given that opportunity to try and deliver his own promos. And from every single account that I've heard, and there is no differentiation in any of this, like this guy has worked his ass off to try and work on his second language skills and been present at media events when he wasn't required to be there and tried to do English language interviews. I think that if there's any, I do agree that he hasn't really cut any great promos quite yet in WWE, but #1, I think that's from a lack of opportunity on that end. When you've got Zelina Vega cutting promos for you, you could be John Cena, and frankly, you should have the right to be quiet. She is, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to. Exactly.
You don't need to cut promos when you have someone like that cutting them for you. You know
exactly.
Yeah. Tell me why Paul Heyman was there for Lesnar then. It's kind of a similar situation.
Exactly. No, I think you're bang on. I think that there's merit to that question, but I also think that there's a lot of sort of asterisks to it, to butcher that word as I always do. We're
Sorry,
going to take
what?
a quick break. No, I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to move on to the quick break. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up this week on Love Wrestling, this Tuesday, I've got a special release coming your way. I actually got the opportunity to interview my first ever musician. It was cool as shit. I absolutely loved it. Not only for the fact that he is a fantastic musician, obviously, but he is a professional wrestling fan and someone who has been featured on All Elite Wrestling a couple of times. If you guys watched Cody versus Dustin, which I know you have, if you guys watched Darby versus Cody at Full Gear last year, which I know you guys have as well, then you've heard this individual's music. This is Ian Abel of the Ian Abel Band on how he first got the opportunity to work with All Elite Wrestling. We'll be back in about a minute and a half. Top up your drinks. Do what you got to do. We'll see you on Sunday Brunch in about a minute here. I think a lot of those, though, really do tie into the professional wrestling sense of things. I want to start with the most recent addition to the, I guess, pro wrestling repertoire, though, because when you wrote, or I guess when you commented last on Not Afraid to Die, you said that that was the song that you first thought was going to get picked up by AEW. So maybe give me a little bit of history on that and why you thought it was so cool and why I think a lot of pro wrestling fans thought it was so cool to see it featured at Full Gear 2020.
I think, I think that it was used better at Full Gear.
Mhm.
So I'd been talking to Cody and Brandy, and Michael Kulari was in the conversation, and then a few other emails. I have no idea who they are. They're behind the scenes people. And, so here I am talking to these people, and I'm thinking we're talking about the song "Not Afraid to Die," because I'd went in after I sent them shoes, and I sent them a couple others to show that like what we kind of sound like. And I went in that weekend with my friend John Graber and another buddy Reed, and I'd written the chords, I'd written the melodies, I'd written the lyrics, everything was there. And we just went in and said, okay, let's figure this out. And we pretty much laid everything down. And what you hear on Not Afraid to Die, we did in one day.
Mhm.
And which is pretty cool to get in there. And I mean, my friends are incredible at engineers and mixers. And so I got lucky there, but we just laid down the acoustic, sang a vocal that I thought was going to be like a scratch track to then recut. And John was like, "Nah, man, that's it, dude." And I was like, okay, cool. Right. And then
the Jordan Satellites theory, right?
yeah, I was like, oh, okay, crap. I would have sang better. I don't know. But and so then we mixed it and I sent it over Sunday. Monday, we start talking more, and that's when we're leading up to Double or Nothing. And I'm thinking the whole time that we're talking about Not Afraid to Die. And then actually Cody emails me all caps and says, I want shoes. And I said, oh, okay, this is different. I'm not prepared. Brandon, get some shoes, okay?
But whatever you want, boss. For continuity purposes, I actually wore the same shirt today that I wore for that interview so that it looked like we seamlessly are integrating those sorts of things into our technology now. But that's neither here nor there. He was an absolute blast to get the opportunity to chat with. We'll preview everything coming up on Love of Wrestling near the end of the program here today. But check that one out on Tuesday as your little teaser, as your little sneak peek of what you're going to get coming your way from me. Mighty Joe, let's hear what you got coming up on Turnbuckle Rewind as a quick little sneak peek. And then, as we were talking about before we went to break there, what would your Andrade Dream match be?
Cool. Coming up for Turnbuckle Rewind this week, it's an interesting one that I've been looking forward to. It was definitely on my short list of ones to cover early on in doing the show here. And we're going to go back to September 1st of 2018 to the biggest independent wrestling show of all time for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, Nick Aldis versus Cody. This one's going to be a fun one, and I think you guys are really going to dig it. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, man, Joe, I'll let you wax poetic because I know you were there as well, but like actually getting to be there for that match, actually getting to see it, the emotion with it, man, I'm excited to watch along with you.
For sure.
Yeah.
And when it comes to my dream match for Andrade, I'm looking, if he were to move outside of the WWE, which I'm hoping maybe he can. I know Parrish was kind of pitching, and you guys were kind of pitching to him to stay in the WWE. Honestly, I like to see him go elsewhere. For me, it's in Ring of Honor, but I would want to see the Black Machismo version of Jay Lethal versus an Andrade. I think that would be a highly entertaining match and one that I would pay some hard-earned money to watch.
You've really got your all-in bias going right now, hey?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, before we move on, Joe, we'll let you have the last word on Andrade Dream matches before we move to the major segment here. But let's take some time to make fun of my shirt. Breaking news: Spencer wears the same shirt every day. Ha ha ha. He also said that he was going to wear a No More BS shirt that I was going to wear. You know what? That's still on order, and you know how long stuff takes to get to Canada from the States as far as it goes in the best of times. Nonetheless, the worst of times that we're in right now.
Spencer, don't blame the States.
Wrestling Plug Inc. I don't know why, but Cody versus Andrade would be fun.
Yep.
I like that one. That's a great shout.
That's on a short list for me, too. That was one that popped out outside of the WWE realm for me. I do think if he were to stay with WWE, I do think there's a neat story they could tell. If Cross beats Balor for that title, I think there's a neat story you can tell of him going down there to pair up with Santos Escobar and debuting and maybe attacking Cross because Santos and Cross have a past. And maybe he's wearing a mask when he attacks him because that's how that trio debuted. Then he rips off the mask. Cool. Then he rips off the mask. It's Andrade, former NXT heavyweight champion. Doesn't need to work his way back up to the top of the card. He goes back down there. He needs to immediately be in a title picture, the world heavyweight NXT title picture. It's just a neat story you could tell, I think, if you did it right.
I love that. We're not even getting dream matches. We're getting full-on fantasy.
Give me the pencil
here on Sunday.
Give me
brunch.
the pencil.
No. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Andre C hopping in with a couple of great options here. Andrade versus Darby Allin. I think that'd be great. Andrade's a guy who lays it in, and Darby Allin's a guy who takes a beating. I'll watch that 10 out of 10 times. Andrade versus Naito is one that I would actually really love as well. I think there's the history there. And Joe, you can maybe speak to it because apparently, not apparently, but just my New Japan knowledge is nowhere near as in-depth as yours is. There's a good story to be told there, I'd have to assume, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially if you were going to bring him into like a Ring of Honor, and if you were going to have him be an outside factor, not be somebody who's in Los Ingobernables. That's such a hard name to say. Or if he was going to get in, and if he was going to turn on them. I mean, there's just so many ways that you can play of it, and then there's long-term story stuff that's already been established that you can continue to build off of. Pretty much anything that they would do, I think, would be fantastic.
Absolutely love it. We'll get a couple more in before we move to the main event segment today. Here's one that I love as well. Vanessa with a lot of great comments today. And another one right here. Andrade could go to MLW and be a top talent. Love to see him against Holiday or Hammerstone, then Fatu. Yeah, a lot of time for that. Fatu might be, like he is one of the most talented pro wrestlers in the world. Where you put him on that list, that's why I was hesitating with whether you go top 5, top 10. He's just a damn talented pro wrestler, man. He is so talented. When they started the whole Roman Reigns head of the table, when it looked like he was going to be facing the Rocket Mania this year, I was pitching left, right, and center that WWE should try and find a way, even if it's spot duty. Bring in Fatu, have him wrestle Roman Reigns. If they were trying to do that entirely around the family storyline, I think that would have been just cool as shit to be able to do. But that lives in the fantasy world of dream booking that unfortunately has not come to pass as of this point. We've got a new commenter in here, Chris Parrish, saying that Andrade versus Tyler Bate would be amazing. I don't know why I brought him up. We'll take that comment down. We'll flag this in post-production.
I heard that guy successfully called the Adam Cole Finn Balor match.
I think he did, actually.
Good for him.
Yeah. For being so right, you're on timeout. I love the power. Yeah, I had to do it. You're back. You can see I'm not even letting you have the time to hop back into the comment section. However, if you guys are in the comment section,
still spend more time in timeout than you did last week.
I think that's a good thing. If you guys have any more comments on the Andrade side of things, you want to keep getting your dream matches in, feel more than free if you're still hanging out here with us on Sunday Brunch. But we were having the conversation prior to getting started here, as we usually do when deciding on topics. Guys, there's a real lack of announced matches on this here WrestleMania card in front of me right now. That ain't Joe saying goodbye to everybody in the show. That is the amount of announced matches. Right? And even then, one of them could ostensibly change if we get Daniel Bryan added to the Edge Roman Reigns match. So right now, we are less than a month away from... What would be the third then?
The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, brother.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if Hogan's going to win it this year. I'll just rub my eyes and refrain from commenting.
Oh my goodness, Spencer, you just threw some bad juju into the universe there, my friend.
How you gotta go in timeout, Spencer? How dare you bring Hulk Hogan up?
There we go.
There he is.
2 weeks
Oh,
in a row.
Hogan. Oh my goodness.
Unfortunately, that was when we got the one. Well, that's unfortunately when we got our one like on Facebook is when I went on to timeout right there. So if they take that one away, say la vie. But let's chat WrestleMania. It's always a great thing to do. It's always a great thing to break down when we've got matches on the card. But when we quite literally have a blank canvas to paint from, let's just chat about it. Joe, you were the one who suggested the topic. You're the one who brought it up first. And I should indicate Mighty Joe. I apparently haven't gotten any better at that over the last few weeks. Mighty Joe brought her up first, so I believe that you've got the first right of refusal on your first thoughts on this year's WrestleMania card, or I guess lack thereof.
Well, before we went live here, Joe Jr. and I were kind of sitting here chatting, and that's where I want to kind of start off with. I put myself in looking at it from two different aspects here. I'm thinking of somebody who's already subscribed to the network. Whether here in Canada you've still got the network, or in the States you're doing this Peacock thing, which is kind of confusing, seeing that kind of from the sidelines. But those people, I think we can pretty safely assume that they're going to watch WrestleMania. Now, switching to the other side, whether when it comes to people who haven't watched the product for a little while, or you're casual fans or non-fans, kind of seeing this at a distance, there's nothing to draw them in, or to kind of, and there's no investment. There's no, I see, there's John Cena versus The Rock. I'm just using them as an example, but there's nothing there to attract anybody who isn't already into the product. There's nothing there. Mm-hmm. That's the problem, and we're less than a month away, and we're going to be cramming in. We're going to, okay, let's take that guy and that guy. You're going to be together, and there's no long-term investment for anybody at this point, other than the two matches. We have Sasha versus I'm blanking on the name, Bianca Belair, and then we have Edge and Roman Reigns, which I still feel there was a missed opportunity to have Edge versus Finn Balor to really showcase that NXT product at WrestleMania. But I don't know. I thought they had that right in their lap, and it just said that these two matches they're going to be good, but we got nothing else, and we got 2 days to fill, guys. We got 2 days to fill, and we're less than a month away, and we know nothing.
Joe Jr., before we move on to you, we've got to give a quick shout out to two great comments that both made me laugh live and on the stream. Lola Bunny wins the Women's Battle Royal at Mania. Great shout. I think that would be a fantastic move if you're looking for that crossover. And look, we talk about celebrities in professional wrestling a lot here, but she's proven herself as an athlete. She's already shown that she can hang with the men. She's already proven that she can do better than a lot of the women. Why not test her against some of the best superstars in the world? I like the pick of Lola Bunny. Why not? Let's go with it. Mr. J throwing it out there as well. Let's be honest here. Peacocks are confusing in general, streaming service or otherwise. Yeah, how can you look that good and have absolutely no real use to the animal kingdom? That's the only statement I've got on peacocks.
Yeah.
You show me a smart peacock, I'll show you a dumb human. Anyways, we're moving on. Joe Jr., what are your thoughts on this year's WrestleMania?
Yeah, I mean, like Mighty Joe said, we were chatting a little before, and it just seems like even the two matches that have been booked, those stories aren't really super jump-started towards Mania either. So I feel like they're just trying to get through Fastlane next week, and then once they get through that, it'll be 3 weeks of build at that point. But, I mean, realistically, how many matches are you going to have per night? 6, 7, 8? Okay, well, it feels like WrestleMania shouldn't be the pay-per-view every year where we're just throwing matches together. Like, WrestleMania should be the culmination of the last year. Now, I know, obviously, the last year has been difficult with COVID and all that stuff. There's other elements leading up to this WrestleMania than in past WrestleManias, obviously. But WrestleMania should be that should be stuff that has been building since the middle of last year. It is your show. It is your main show. And it's the one show that, like Joe said, people that haven't been around, maybe they took a break from wrestling, maybe they grew out of wrestling, whatever, they still know what WrestleMania is. WrestleMania has always been WrestleMania. And the fact that there's not one, there's 2 matches booked, but not one of them is going to draw those people that haven't watched for the last couple of years and be like, oh man, maybe Edge, they might remember Edge and be like, oh cool, Edge, cool. But like, there's no, WrestleMania should not be a put together, let's quickly get this WrestleMania, we need a card, let's do it. It should be, we've been building at this for a year. You know?
I never like having the excuse to use the word, but I always love using the word haphazardly, and I feel like it applies very, very well here. Like
100%.
I'm so excited. I don't want to take away from my excitement for both Edge Reigns and
Oh,
Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. Those are, for me, WrestleMania matches. Those are high quality matches. A point though, and Vanessa says it as well as you did, Joe. Are they scrambling hard because of COVID and people having to step out? Lee's out with breathing issues after COVID. Lacey's out after having a baby. Like, yeah, I think that you
have all this other talent. I think,
and that's what I was going to say, Joe. Is like
we're using COVID as an excuse now. It's like it's not like we don't have the time to build this stuff. Now we're just using COVID as a cop out. Oh well, the COVID's happening, so we can't do it. No, I don't buy that as an excuse. We have all this time. We have all the talent. These other people they're injured or having issues. You have a humongous roster of people to use. Use them.
Yeah, and I think that I don't want to say like COVID for me, it's the word excuse, I guess, just doesn't feel right for me to say. It is a bit of a crutch. I agree there. When you're looking at stuff like Lee, like when you're using, I guess the best way I can put it, if COVID's affecting your travel, okay, that's a bit of a cop out. With stuff like Keith Lee or when Drew McIntyre was out, anything like that, that's where I sort of see the difference is like, if your hand's forced, your hand's forced. But by the same time, it's not like your hand was forced the day before WrestleMania or even a week before like it was last year, right? We were 2 weeks out from WrestleMania last year. I think it was March 26th, 28th that it was announced for. And we got shut down, at least here in Alberta. We were shut down on March 13th. So quite literally 2 weeks is as close to the day as you can almost get it. And I think you're bang on in the point you make there as well, Joe, in that by this point, it relates perfectly because Andrade is the easy example to use right now. How you couldn't find him to slot in, like, I don't know what Keith Lee's match was or what the plan was, but if he was going to challenge for the U.S. title, then I could also see Andrade being a guy who could fill that role very, very well. Yeah, Vanessa, don't worry. We get what you mean there. It's I mean it as in they could build a rivalry and then all of a sudden, I think that Lacey Evans is a perfect example of that because whether you liked the story or not, if it had continued going, at the very least, again, maybe we've got the match officially announced. I would have to guess as of March 22nd following Fastlane that'd be officially announced. They would have been building it for a bit. That one I do think again is that victim of circumstance, so to speak. But let's get some of that, Aleister Black's not doing anything.
I was just gonna mention him. He hasn't been around since September, I think. And he's another one. I put him in Andrade. Those are can't miss people to me. Those are can't miss wrestlers to me. And they haven't done a single thing with either of them 6 months. And you're coming to WrestleMania. Like, it's unreal to me that you have guys like that. And there's plenty more. They don't have a program for Kevin Owens, who carried SmackDown with Reigns for 3 months. Some of the best programming that the company has done. No, what's he doing at Mania? Sami Zayn, one of the most entertaining characters they've had. Nothing. They have so many good women and men that they're not doing anything with. And it's just like, we're 3.5, 4 weeks away. Like, these people deserve to have a build to a marquee match at your marquee show, period. Yeah. And there's nothing.
No, I agree. I'm going to let you touch on this one, Parrish, because it's a funny comment, and sorry for cutting off half your faces there on the bottom. What do you think will have more matches this year's 2-day WrestleMania or next week's episode of AEW Dark? I watched an episode of Dark recently. It was nearly 3 hours long and had 17 matches. I love AEW Dark. I love the idea of getting these underappreciated talents or people who need a bigger platform. I love that idea. But I think that it definitely has shown over the last few weeks, Shaw, and I'll let Parrish, you can hop on this one if you want. I think that this last couple of weeks, maybe last month, has really shown why they have the need for that AEW Dark elevation. Because same thing, if you can have 8 matches and 8 matches versus 17 matches on one card, I know which way I'd go with it.
Well, I can tell you which way I go. I don't care how many matches are on a show. I want the matches to be solid, entertaining, make sense, and have a good story. If they don't have that, it doesn't matter how many matches you have. You can have one match, and if it doesn't do what I just said, the show sucks. You can have 8 matches, and if it does do what I just said, the show's going to be great. It can go either way. It's all about storytelling and doing it proper. It has no, I watched Revolution, and I'm seeing the highest of spots in the opening match. And it's like, okay, now when I get to the main event, I have to have this ridiculous expectation. That's what I just don't get about wrestling anymore. We talk about these moments as if they're in a spot. They're not. They're a culmination of a great story, and it's a highlight of that story and that angle. I mean, Joe Jr., you talked about WrestleMania being that celebration of the last year. Well, the last year has been confusing and kind of stupid for WWE. So the fact that there is no build-up kind of makes sense. But so
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Beautifully
no,
put.
but then, like, the way I look at it, this is exactly why I hated the Rumble. And no, it's not because I lost to you, Spencer. I'm mad enough to say that you beat me. Here, but you missed the boat on the current workers by going back to what was good 10 years ago. You missed, like, not a shot against Christian, not a shot against Edge. But what does it do for your current product when you gave a guy who 10 years ago had to retire the main event slot and not a current guy? You're not helping your current guys out. You could have done more with your current guys if you gave these guys these opportunities and let them go. Look what you did with Drew McIntyre a year ago. You propelled him to a position to where now he is a main event star. You could do the same every year, and they're not, and that's the big problem. It's not because they're bringing in guys. They're just misusing them. They're not putting Edge in a position to catapult a Kevin Owens or catapult an Andrade or to help elevate guys. Because now you get guys or people like Asuka who get hurt and who's a champion, and they might not be there for the WrestleMania. And that definitely puts a fork in your plan. I hope I said that right. I don't know. But I'm on a roll, so just let me go. But and then Lacey getting pregnant, and like these are things that you can't help. COVID, COVID to an extent can mess with your plans, but the fact that you don't have a 1B to your 1A for planning right now is just irresponsible, I think, from a booking committee, because it's a thing that can happen at any time. But the fact that there's only 2 matches right now, and thankfully they're title matches. But the fact that those are the only 2 matches that you kind of have going in just shows a lack of creative prowess from the beginning. And this is what makes me concerning of why there's 2 pay-per-views between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, because what are they serving a purpose for?
Yeah. No, I think you're bang on, Parrish. I think it is a great okay, fair enough, Joe. I saw that. Don't worry. We're going to take a quick break. It's not going to be your traditional commercial break. However, I am going to let you guys know about the next new program we've got coming up here on my end on Love Wrestling. That's right. We're not just doing interviews with professional wrestlers anymore. We're doing interviews with the people behind the content of the professional wrestlers, I suppose. Coming to Love Wrestling on April 6th. The Mind Behind premieres 1 hour before Impact Wrestling. That's 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I want you guys to check out some of the people that I've grown to love in professional wrestling, people that have inspired the content. There's no other way to put it. The people who've inspired the content that I love listening to, that I love watching on YouTube, and the stuff that makes me excited about being a professional wrestling fan, whether it's interviewers, whether it's promoters, whether it's anybody in between on the behind the scenes end. We're going to be talking to them. And of course, we can't leave you just with the show. We've got to give you our first guest. So joining us on April 6th, Alicia Atoot, the founder of Ambi. I know you guys have heard me, number one, sing her praises, but you've also heard me interview her a couple of times before in a more formal setting, I suppose. This is going to be live. This is going to be interactive. She's going to be here answering your questions, getting your comments, your concerns. Everything that we're doing here on Sunday Brunch, you can expect on Tuesday, April 6th, with one of the premier content creators in professional wrestling, music, and beyond. It's something I'm super, super excited for. I hope you guys are excited for it as I am, because there are great people in professional wrestling. I'm lucky enough to work with them, like the people you see here on Sunday Brunch, like the people you read, hear from, and watch on Love Wrestling. And thankfully, I'm going to get to do a little bit more of that in the next little bit. Wow, that was a lot of talking on my end. But before we move on to someone else to talk, I cover the comments. I am used to it. I'll completely own that one. Let's give a quick few shout outs. Of course, let's start with Mrs. Maniac. It's not just 2 nights of Mania to fill. I thought they're doing 2 nights of TakeOver as well. So many matches to fill and only so much of the Hurt Business to go around. I have no problem with 3 Bobby Lashley matches on a WrestleMania card this year. And Parrish, I know if you had heard me say that last year, you probably would have had a heart attack. I think you're bang on, though. Like,
Joe, confusing and it makes no sense.
But you're bang on, like a 2-night takeover. At least for me, I think that you can give NXT a little bit more benefit of the doubt. And that where you talk at the end there, Parrish, I love the point you made on maybe not really having that 1B or having somebody ready to step into that role. You know, even a couple of years ago, as it sort of played out, when Mustafa Ali went down, you had Kofi Kingston that could pop in, right? Those guys are talented enough to do it. Like, that's sort of the two people that I would see as individuals who could hop into a spot like that right now. But
that match was one of the best ones going into WrestleMania too. It was such a natural, organic story going into WrestleMania that it actually overtook the emotional investment for me than the actual female main event, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was all huge. That was one of my favorite WrestleManias. I think it was just absolutely fantastic. We've also got Kyle Shaw here. Are they still planning to do Mania in a stadium? Sure. Yes. And actually, if you go up in the comments section there, I think it was Vanessa that said, and a couple of you guys have touched on it as well, I think they're planning on about 45,000 in the stadium. Vanessa, if you can clear me up on that one, that'd be great in the comments. I know you can hear me, and I know you're freaking good at getting facts for me because you've done it more than once when I've hopped on the show for you. Please do. I was hoping that the one takeover at Mania was going to be another Evolution. That's a really great point, that they could have done something along those lines. Whether you call it takeover Evolution, whatever it may be, you know, I get where the complaints come from as far as the tag titles go and how they were introduced. Don't get me wrong there, but it also would seem to be something that could play into an Evolution event pretty well. And I think the appetite's there. I think the appetite's been there for a long time from a lot of people for one of those. Then we finally get to the comment that had inspired me to chat with you guys for about the next 15 minutes here. Let's talk about some potential matches on the Mania card. Maybe not dream matches, maybe matches that we just see, I guess, as logical. Before we do that, thank you for my fact check here. 45,000 is the number they are reporting for Raymond James Stadium. I don't know what their attendance capacity is at. That just seems like a big number right now. But I'd also have to figure, yeah, if you could, that'd be great. Or Vanessa, if anybody can help me out with Raymond James capacity.
And it's in Florida, and Florida has
if they've got a 90, I was going to say,
they
if
have
the
no
capacity
rules,
is 90,000, chances are they would have the clearance for 90,000.
I'm pretty sure they're at 100% capacity down there. So
the Super Bowl's in that stadium, so usually football stadiums can sit about 60 and 80,000, I believe.
Yeah, it's about they can expand it to about 75,000, but typical capacity is just shy of 66,000.
Which makes sense, because you got to figure that they'd have like some sort of. You'd have to figure that they would have some similar, and like some sort of cohort seating, I guess, like they've been doing with AEW, where you have to sit with your family. Yeah. And, you know, like I'm firmly of the belief if people feel they can do this stuff safely, cool. AEW, I think, has done a really good job, which has encouraged me a lot about the potential. I'm as hesitant as anybody for stuff like that. And when you're the first people hopping in and dipping your toes into bringing fans back in what is a dangerous time and all those other cliches you guys have heard for the last year. But AEW, I think, has proven, at least on the fan side of things, that it can be done safely. And all I can do now that they've planned to have fans at it is hope for the best. And I think that they're going to do a good job with it. But like I said, let's chat about WrestleMania matches. Let's maybe get 2 from each of you guys, including myself, because like I said, we don't like going over match times. We got about 10 minutes left here on Love Wrestling's Sunday Brunch. Joe Jr., I don't think we've started with you on anything. I don't think we've been last with you on anything either. But that means you get the benefit of being first, at least as far as this segment goes.
Yeah, I mean, for dream matches, I know someone had mentioned Big E and Apollo. I believe that's happening at Fastlane next week, so I don't know if they would just run it back for Mania. I could see that becoming a multi-man match. I know it kind of started with Apollo fighting Nakamura, and Big E was on commentary putting Nakamura over huge, and then so I could see that becoming a multi-man match. I'm really excited. They haven't announced it yet, but it seems like they're going in that. Cesaro and Seth Rollins all day. I could watch those two go all day. So
literally, as you said it, Vanessa commented same thing. That is a match I am hyped for.
Oh yeah. So I would be all in on that.
Your minds are intertwined.
I think I'm pretty sure they're leaning towards McIntyre and Lashley for Mania, but I just think if they could pull Brock out and get Brock and Lashley, that's a match we've all been pining for forever. So I think that would overtake I think the 2 matches booked should be the 2 main events each night. That's just how I feel. But I think if you were getting Brock and Lashley, I would rather see that main event than I would Roman and Edge. That's how I would feel about that.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's like they've done great work on it, but I think you're bang on. I've got
Well,
all the time for Brock Lesnar if you guys haven't heard.
All day. Yeah, I saw your tweet and I was, I get why people are like, oh, Brock when he comes back, but like that guy's he's one of the best to ever do it.
All time great.
And I feel like he's
All-time
I feel like he's almost underappreciated to an extent, and it's baffling. It's baffling.
Yeah. That's the topic for 2 weeks from now. Is Brock Lesnar underrated? It'll be a 2-hour special, and there's only going to be me on it.
But yeah, I would say those are my 2. If you could do Lashley, Lesnar, and Cesaro and Rollins. Cesaro and Rollins looks like it is going to happen, which but Lashley and Lesnar would be my other dream / let's do it, please. Yeah.
Mighty Joe.
I'm on the same way. I'm on the same wavelength as Joe Jr. is for Brock and Bobby. I think that not only is a dream match, I think that could be that's your big marquee WrestleMania match. I mean, Brock is still to this day one of the biggest draws in professional wrestling, and he hasn't been around. Still, he's one. You have him on a wrestling show. People are going to watch. That is huge. Now, when it comes to like a second pick, for me, it would actually be the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. But I think that you don't put that on the pre-show. I think you have that either be your curtain jerker match or you have it be early on, and you have an opportunity to almost kind of right or wrong, in my opinion. You involve a lot of NXT guys. You give those guys a chance to showcase themselves on the grandest stage of them all, as they like to always, rub our faces in that. You have an opportunity. They were in Florida. They have all those NXT guys, and they only used one in the Royal Rumble this year. They have a chance here to do that and to use a lot of NXT guys. Give all those guys like Cameron Grimes and everybody give them a chance to showcase that, and it'll also really help the NXT brand as well. Because then people are like, oh, I want to go see them every week, right?
Yeah. Yep. I don't disagree with you whatsoever. Parrish.
An idea, Joe, just to kind of tail off. I actually wouldn't mind like a battle royal like that just for the NXT guys, and the winner actually became a member of the roster. That would be kind of cool.
Cool.
So yeah,
that's a really cool concept.
Yeah, some stakes at one end.
Yeah, exactly. Just having those things mean a little bit more. But I mean, we talk about Lesnar, and like I'm gonna say flat out, I am looking so much to Rollins and Cesaro. But for me, the one match with Lesnar and that I've always wanted to see, and ever since he was with Heyman and they didn't really do anything, I want to see Cesaro against Brock Lesnar. I think that's a natural story, and I think these guys would be just money together. Imagine Lesnar on that swing for like a minute at WrestleMania and how much that could have been an iconic moment. We saw Cesaro body slam the Big Show out of the ring and how massive, pun intended, that was. I think a swing on Lesnar, maybe even Heyman, would be a WrestleMania moment.
Quick question for you guys, because we've been hitting on Cesaro. Let me throw this to everybody here, even people in the chat and watching now. What do you guys think? Why are they so reluctant to push Cesaro as one of the guys? It's mind-boggling. Fans adore him. They love him, but the people in charge go, we don't know what to do. Like it's right in your lap, guys. He's right there.
I think it's because, at least in my opinion, I think it's because they don't have confidence that he can cut a good promo.
But he can.
I think he can too. I think now that they've given him opportunity the last month or so, and it seems like there's a push, you're seeing that. But I think when he first came early on, they put him with, I forget her name, but they put her with that female manager. They weren't letting him talk. Oksana, yeah.
I forgot about her.
Right, exactly. I think he's been kind of put into a category where they didn't have faith that he'd be able to carry a feud or a big time match with his talking. And I agree with you, Joe. I think he always has had that ability to do that. I just think now, finally, I feel like he's been with the company for like 10 years now. They're actually giving him that opportunity to do so.
Absolutely.
You go back and you watch his Ring of Honor work as Claudio. Like, not only was he always a good worker in the ring, he's always been a good talker. You just got to give this guy the opportunity. I really think that he could really be something for them. It's so frustrating to just watch them squander the opportunity with him.
I completely agree. I'll touch on a couple of quick comments here, get my picks in, let you guys know what you can expect on Love Wrestling, and then we'll be signing off here sooner rather than later. Of course, good buddy Brian McKenzie hopping in the chat again. It's good to see you, friend. Yeah, Cesaro versus Brock is a great suggestion. Parrish, I really, really like that pick. Nicely done. We're going to chat about that on the POS show next week. Andre C as well makes a great point. Didn't Baron Corbin win the Andre the Giant as part of NXT? Andre the Giant, Battle Royal. And that's what brought him to the main roster. Yes, but I think what Parrish is talking about is that he wants something where that's like the direct stipulation is that if you win this, you go to the main roster, quote unquote, where I think that it was just I think it was an assumed thing that Baron Corbin wanted. He showed up on Raw the next night. Oh, this is his promotion. Yeah. Parrish, throw your one more in there if you can. Make her quick because we've got a lot to get through in the next about 2 minutes and 52 seconds.
I think it's one that everyone here would actually have the time for, and it's Finn Balor and AJ Styles. And it's a true organic story between them. And you know what? This would be a great time for Adam Cole to run in. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
We don't see run-ins at WrestleMania when they've been done. Seth Rollins, it's been done right. But holy cow, debuting in the main event at WrestleMania and attacking both guys, that's a statement. And don't tell me that's not making three guys stars instantly.
Yep.
Parrish, I don't think that statement is one we can dispute. In fact, I think it's undisputed. My two picks. Let's get through those real quick if we can. The one that I think everybody's got lined up for sure. Orton and The Fiend is going to happen. I don't think that there is any doubt on that end. And let me tell you, I'm excited. Fiend's been getting a lot of flack lately, rightfully so. I think there's been a lot of stuff in that storyline that has gone south quite a bit. And you guys know how I feel about sort of the supernatural side of pro wrestling. Big thumbs up for this guy. Unfortunately, sort of jumped the shark, I guess, for lack of a better way, a few months ago. It's cycled back. I'm very excited for Orton versus The Fiend. And then on that sort of similar note, I've got either Asuka versus Alexa Bliss or Charlotte versus Alexa Bliss. I don't know what's going to happen with Asuka. Rumor has it that she's got a concussion right now. And of course, I don't like making any predictions on things when it has to do with a very serious injury, no matter how minor the actual injury is, if that makes sense. So the hope is that Asuka's okay. The hope is that she's in the WrestleMania spot that everybody, I think, feels she deserves, whether or not the Raw Women's Championship has been booked to a lot of people's liking this year. She is still incredibly deserving of that spot each and every year. Fun fact, has never won a WrestleMania match, that Asuka hasn't, which is an odd one. I think we should write that wrong this year. Unfortunately, that's going to have to wait until the next edition of Sunday Brunch, or maybe Parrish and I get into it next week on the POS show. Of course, you guys can find that this Sunday coming up on Love Wrestling. But in the interim, Poetry of a Promos touching on Becky Lynch on Monday. I've got Ian Abel and Matt Taven both coming on for interviews this week. And then Thursday, you get a double dose of Love Wrestling. Turnbuckle Rewind's got their aforementioned all-in match. And then Josh Robinson's going to be touching on some WrestleMania highlights of his own. As we get closer to the show of shows, I know you guys can expect a lot more content on the WrestleMania end, on the Fastlane end coming up next Sunday on the POS show, and through each and every edition of the Sunday Brunch we've got coming up here on Love Wrestling. Got to give a quick shout out, not only because Rich King is a great guy, not only because he's a great professional wrestler, but he also mentioned one of my personal favorite matches that I am most excited for, Shane versus Strowman. Hooray. Parrish, you're my co-host on the POS show next week, so you're going to get an extra opportunity to plug your social medias. Let's let you plug them first here so that everybody's got Joe and Joe stuck firmly in their brains so that once this broadcast is over, they can go and give them a follow.
Okay, well, you can follow me at Twitter at Chris Parrish, on Instagram at Chris.Parrish, on Twitch at Creator of the Parrish Shoot, where I seem to be called Creator a lot. So I didn't think that one through at all. Yeah, and then I'll also be recording a podcast later today, being a guest of it. So follow these social medias to get more information on that. So in the next few days, I'll be sharing that out.
Beauty. Mighty Joe Morin, you've got lots.
I believe that's you.
No
Do your
idea.
tags, my friend.
I have no
Tell
idea
us
what happened there.
AEW because our finish is getting botched.
It just
I
looked like
don't know what happened either.
I don't know what
I think
happened.
Alexa. I think
Yeah.
Spencer,
Alexa
let me
Bliss.
save you.
Alexa Bliss heard that we put her in the main event and just blacked the broadcast out.
I have no idea
It's
what
that
happened.
Supernatural. We're talking about Supernatural Pro Wrestling.
Yep.
It's hopping in here on Sunday Brunch. So, Mighty Joe, I apologize for that. I was
No
saying
worries.
that people are going to get what you put out on Love Wrestling through following Love Wrestling, but you do a lot outside of the brand. So, where can they keep track of you specifically?
As you can see, right, I'm going to try and point towards it, right where my finger's pointing, at TB Talk Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Of course, like you said, outside of Love Wrestling, my main show, Turnbuckle Talk, I do every weekend. Actually, coming up tomorrow on live, I've got a big show planned. A lot of my favorite personalities are going to get to be on, and we're just going to be talking John Cena. And you guys will see where I kind of go with that. So make sure and check that out. Like I said, I've got Rewind coming up later in the week. I'm going to be on Destina with Michael Jargo, and there might be something else. It's yeah, I've got lots going on. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, Joe. Other Joe. Joe Jr., Joe Poulin, Joseph.
Yes.
Any of those other names that
They all
indicate
were.
that you are not Mighty Joe.
They all
Where
were.
can people find you?
Yeah. I am on the Twitter machine at right down here. Oh, no. I'm going to fail miserably. Right down here. At Joseph_Poulin Jr. Hopefully we'll be having a really fun announcement within the next couple days about something I'm going to be doing weekly starting soon. So, yeah, but until then, follow me on there. I hope to be a regular contributor on here for the brunches. Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm ready to do more. I'm ready to kind of get after it. So, yeah.
And you are welcome to do so on Love Wrestling. Joe, we love having you here. We love having Mighty Joe. We love having Parrish. And, of course, we love having all of you folks in the comments. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your Sunday. There's a lot of wrestling programming out there. There's a lot of people giving their opinions on this business that we all love so much. So thanks for taking your time out of your day to support us here at Love Wrestling. If you want to continue to do so after this broadcast ends, you can see all of our social medias scrolling along the bottom there. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, anywhere that you guys can get your podcasts played, your videos viewed, or your articles read. You can find us at Love Wrestling CA. If you really want to help us out, head to Rate This Podcast. I thought it was Rate That Podcast for a second, so I tried to delay as it scrolled along the bottom, but I didn't quite get there yet. So if you want to head to Rate This Podcast, which is now scrolling along the bottom, /Love Wrestling CA. If you leave us a review, leave us 5 stars, leave us 1 if you think that we do that bad a job. But if you've stuck around for this long, I feel pretty confident in thinking that you enjoy what we do. So if you do, if I'm correct in that assumption, give us a like, a share, a review, a follow, any of that sort of stuff. However you choose to support, it not only warms our heart, but lets us continue to do cool stuff like this with our friends. Parrish has a cookie, apparently. That's what we're going to close it out with as he shows off the branding on his hat. We made fun of my shirt earlier, so we may as well get hats out of the way too. Ladies and gentlemen, let's close her out on Sunday Brunch. For Parrish, I've been Spencer Love. Thanks for tuning in on Sunday Brunch.